Hello friends, and welcome back to Enterprise Architecture. Last episode, we finally made it through Elite Technium. We have that machine behind us here, that giant, massive multi-block structure. That is what is making our Elite Technium for us, and you can see all of the ingredients are coming in, so that is now automated, but it is very slow going. These are very expensive recipes, friends. Today, because of the things we unlocked last episode, I want to spend a little bit of time setting up our AE2 storage at long last. We've been putting this off for way too long, and that'll be a much faster way of getting things crafted. And then after that, we are going to continue on with the quest line. So, with no further ado, let's dive right in. So while we're getting started here, I did want to give a quick shout out to Odaz, who stopped by our Discord to say that they had watched every single episode of this series, which at the time of this recording is 17 episodes just over the last 2 days. That is a lot of watching. I really appreciate the binging of the content here. That certainly makes me feel good that somebody is actually liking it enough to stick around. Hopefully the rest of you are also liking the content and sticking around with us for a little while, because we are only about halfway through the pack. And just a reminder, we do have the Discord. It's very low traffic. You can always come and hang out, and we can always talk about Minecraft and building and all sorts of stuff if you have any interest. And of course, we also like to share pictures of pets and other stuff. So the Discord is there, friends. Feel free to use it. All right, so back to the actual quests at hand. We need to start doing some elite researching. We are focused on AE2 today, but I think the elite miner is going to be a critical path item for us, as well as these graphite electrodes that basically are unbreakable. Those are going to be really, really important for us. I'd also like to kind of get one of the teleportation options here. Probably the warp stone makes the most sense for us, because that's going to make it really, really easy for us to get from one end of the base, where we have everything set up right now, to the other end and back. Now, I also want to point out that the miner certificate is over here under Elite Research. We actually cheated and unlocked that really, really early in the game. I'll probably go ahead and do it for just the sake of sanity to say that we did actually unlock it officially here. But Ultimine was needed way too early in this pack because we're moving too many things around. Waiting till basically halfway through being done to actually have to unlock it, it's just not very fair, folks. So I did actually cheat that one a little bit. So as far as the core items here, that means that we need 24 Elite Research plus 32, that's 56, plus 16, that is 60, 72 all said and done. So let's make sure that we have at least 72 Elite Technium ingots here. I think that puts us right there. We can put these into our researcher. Now the researcher, one thing that I have noticed here is that these require power. So we are going to have to close this in a little bit and make sure that we have power cables underneath it. So let's go ahead and put our Elite Technium nuggets in here, and that's going to use this power to make our research. All right, research is done. So now we can move on to the actual fun part, which is making the necessary research. So let's go ahead and start here, first of all, with our miners. This should slowly but surely give us our next level of miner, our elite miners. All right, there we go. There's the Elite Miners blueprint. Let's go ahead and combine that with our actual advanced miners here. We'll just do the first one to start. So the next thing we need to do is grab up our hop graphite. Looks like we have 20 pieces left after we made the previous electrodes. And to make our unbreakable electrode blueprint, we need 6 of those here. So let's go back to our researcher, and we are going to take just 6 and no more than 6 because we don't want to duplicate this, and turn that into the next recipe here. This is going to take a second to make the unbreakable electrodes. Our dear friend Ben, in his infinite wisdom, decided to make the duration of this recipe 8,000 ticks, which is a little over 6.5 minutes. That's a very long time to wait for a single item to process. All right, that is finally done. Let's go ahead and take that. That's going to be the next item that we're going to need here. I believe in the time we've been doing that, yes, our Elite Miners blueprint is indeed done. And that means we should be able to start making up our unbreakable electrodes here. Let's go ahead and look at that recipe. Oh, we're going to need molten obsidian for that. I'll go ahead and do this later on. We don't need to do this quite this moment because, right, we don't have molten obsidian on hand. That's all the way down to the other end of the base in that container where we were making the advanced technium. So instead, let's go ahead and make up our Waystones blueprint. It looks like all we need for that is a pair of teleportation cores. And of course, we've got that on hand already. So let's go ahead and throw these in here. Well, that's been going. All 6 of our elite miners that we had put in are now done. So I'm going to go ahead and set these up for cobblestone production right over here. Now, let's check back in here. It looks like the Waystones blueprint is done. How do we use this? We just need a single teleportation core. So let's go ahead and grab about 2 of those because we're going to make up 2 Waystones, one for either side of our base. Waystones goes in here, teleportation core goes in there. All right, there are our warp stones here at long last. We can now use these with some obsidian to make our various waystones. So it looks like you can make a variety of other things here that are share stones and port stones and other things that I don't know anything about, but you know, we don't really have time for that today. We are going to just focus on the basics. So let's go ahead and get these waystones set up here. We're going to set this down, let's say right here. And we're going to call this crafting area. There we go. Actually, you know what? Better idea. Let's call it the lab. Yep, I like it. There we go. Now we have the lab, and we're going to run all the way down to the other end. And this one we are going to call Elite Technium because that's what it is closest to, is the Elite Technium. All right, let's teleport to the lab. Perfect. And here we are back at the lab. Wonderful. Now, onto AE2 properly. We had set up before an ME controller, or we at least had built our ME controller. We never actually got it set up. And this is the time to finally do that. We need a good place to put it, which I think is going to be all the way down at the end here so that we can wire things up from this end all the way back to where we started. This is going to need power, if I remember correctly. I think we can run power directly into it, but we might need a power acceptor of some sort. Let's find out. Yes, it looks like that is indeed getting power, and we might need to upgrade that power supply as well. But now this is the heart of our network. This is the main piece that we need. From this, we can do everything else. So the main thing that we're going to need here is a bunch of pipes, or cables in this case, and we're going to need about 1 million of these ME storage buses. These allow us to connect our existing inventories into the system. So we are going to continue to use all of our generators that we've got now because we still want to have all of those various storage drawers with our ingredients that are intermediary pieces. And honestly, redoing all of this just for autocrafting end to end would take probably another 12 hours. I don't have time for that in real life. All right, so we are going to instead make a bunch of these. For that, we are going to need a bunch of these ME interfaces. For that, we need a boatload of formation cores and a boatload of annihilation cores. Now, in between episodes, I had put together a bunch of logic processors. We had made a bunch of nether quartz, and we have a decent amount of flux dust and some more coming in. So I'm going to go ahead and make up a bunch of these annihilation cores. Let's start with 32. I think that's a good place to start. And then we are going to make a bunch of these formation cores as well. We're going to do 32 of those as well. How about that? All right. And now we can make up a bunch of these ME interfaces. Now, the main thing here is that we want to use regular glass for this, not our quartz glass, which is very expensive. So let's put this here. Let's put this here. And we should get, there we go, a scant 3 of these. What are we missing? Oh, we're missing iron. Of course, this is the problem with our system. Every time we use it, we run out. All right, let's try that again. Let's make up 32 of those ME interfaces. Wonderful. And for that, that means we need to make 64 pistons. That is a lot of pistons. We can make 7 right now because we are out of wood. All right, there we go. There's 64 of those. And now we should just be able to put these together, I believe, into storage buses. All right, great. There's 32 of those. Now, to connect all this up, we are going to need a lot of flux cables. So let's see here. How many of these can we make? It looks like we're making more of these than I thought we were going to. Apparently, I'd made a bunch more quartz fiber than I had recalled. Let's do even more of that. And it looks like we're going to have to crush some more quartz dust to get there. Let's go ahead and at least get 64 pieces of this. We're definitely going to need more than that in the long run. Now, the next thing we need to do is make up some bundled cables. I can't remember if we have channels turned on or not. All right, it turns out channels were indeed turned on, so I just popped in the config and turned those off. I'm sorry, if you are one of the 0.001% of people in the world who think having channels in AE2 is a fun way to play, I have infinite respect for you. I am not one of those people. I do not have that kind of patience or time to go and individually separate out channels of cables. That takes forever. ever in a large build, and I'm sorry, I just don't like to play that way. So I turned it off in the config. And again, we're playing mod packs here, y'all. You have the right as a human being to change anything that you don't think plays well or that you don't think is fun. It's your game. Even if somebody else made the mod pack, feel free to tweak it as you need to make your life better. In this case, I'm saving myself about 30 hours by changing that one single configuration setting, and we're going to move on with our lives. All right, now, we have the cables created. We really need a way to interact with the AE2 interfaces here. So we really need to make ourselves some terminals. Now, terminals in this are relatively simple to make because we have all of the ingredients we need. We're gonna need our pattern encoding terminal. We're gonna need a crafting terminal. We are gonna need a regular ME terminal, and we're gonna need a pattern access terminal. Actually, I don't know if we actually need the regular ME terminal. I think we just need these other 3 here. At the very minimum, we need the first 2. So let's get started with making our crafting terminal here. We are missing making the base ME terminal. For that, we need to make more of our cores. So let's go ahead and make up a few more of these. I'm just gonna make 8 of each while we're at it. Right, and we do need to make a couple of these panels first. Let's go ahead and make up 6 of those real fast. All right, there. Now we should be able to make up our ME terminal. And is that the same one used in both cases? ME terminal? ME crafting terminal. Ah, that's why. Okay, so we need to make up 2 ME crafting terminals while we're at it. That makes perfect sense. All right, so let's make up 1 more regular ME terminal. Then we are going to grab up some of our oak planks. We're going to make up a couple of these crafting tables. There we go. Now we can make up 2 ME crafting tables, or terminals, excuse me, tables, terminals, whatever. And then one of those we can turn into a pattern encoder. Oh, and we are missing, what are we missing? The engineering circuit. Easy enough. All right, we're making up a pile of these processors while we're at it. May as well keep going on those while we are making up our pattern encoding terminal. There we go, there's that. And I believe with all of this done, all we need to do now is make up some disks and disk drives. So where is our drive? There we go, there's our ME drive array. That should be easy for us. There we go. And now we need the storage to go with it. Storage, okay. And these are made out of these storage components. Again, they've changed the design of these. I think these are kind of cute the way they look now. So we need to make up a bunch of these. I think it's going to be, we use 3 to make the next tier up. So let's see how many of these as sort of a base we can do. That's a good start. Let's go to make up a bunch of these 4K ones real fast. Just like this. Okay, there's 3 of those, and then let's make up some of the 16K ones real fast. Got one of those. 16K is probably going to be a good start because this is only going to be overflow storage. I don't think we have more than 16K items in here, but it's probably right on that line. Oh, you know what? The storage component needs a drive wrapped around it here, so let's go ahead and make that into a storage cell real fast, just like that. I think we can actually get the cell back here, if I remember correctly. Is there another way? Yeah, right here. So these housings are really easy to make, and then you can just wrap them and slap them in, slap them out, whatever you need to do. All right, so let's go ahead and put this storage cell into the system here. We are going to go ahead and put our pattern encoding terminal there, and our crafting terminal, no, not there. Come on, give me that back. Oh, there we go. Let's put this back into place here. We want this to face out towards us so we can actually use it. All right, so there's our crafting terminal. Now what we need to do is probably set up something to start importing all of our items here. So we do want the AE2, what is it? There's an importer of some sort. This would be the import bus. Wonderful, we just need to make 1 more piston, and then we can make that. Great. And now systematically, we should be able to start picking up these various drawers and adding them to our array. Wow, we are walking really slow with this. So let's go to put our storage import bus there. Let's put a drawer on top of that, or excuse me, in this case, it's a chest. And now we should be able to tap into this. I think this is just gonna start pulling items in. Yeah, there we go. We can see this is now slowly but surely pulling all of our items into the crafting grid. We can also, of course, make some patterns with that if we want, but we do need to make patterns to be able to save those. Let's make up a pattern real quick, just so that we have an idea of how those are made, but all the auto crafting I'll probably have to set up between episodes, because again, that's another thing that takes a really, really long time. So this is a blank pattern. These are really cheap to make. Quartz glass, glowstone dust, Certus quartz, even if it's not charged, iron and copper. So let's go ahead and make up 4 of those for now. And we're going to run this back over here to the pattern encoder, and we're going to use that later. When we actually get to it, I will show you how those work. But for right now, we are just going to focus on getting our items into our storage system. All right, so that's how we get access to our items and get them slowly pulled in. Now what we need to do is extend this network considerably so that we can start attaching it to all of our various items that we are automatically producing. So let's start by running it over this way so we get access to these items, and we're going to go on top of these boxes. The reason why I kind of set this up the way that I did is so that we have multiple sides that give us access to these drawers. So we're inserting items from the back, we are hooking them up to our main bus from the bottom, but now this new bus that we're going to create, we are going to connect them from the top, and this is going to work really, really well for us to be able to connect these over. All right, so once I connect this all the way over to that side here, and hopefully not fall down too many more times in the process of doing so, there we go. We can now check our device here, and we should see, yes, that all of our gravel is now available to us. So that is a lot of gravel that we are going to be able to use. Now, one other thing to note is going to be priority. We want to make sure that this has the lowest priority for insertion and extraction, and all of the other drawers have higher priority. So by setting it that way, that means that all of the gravel will go into this storage drawer rather into the disk drive where it'll fill up the drive, because we don't want to just fill up our drive with nothing but gravel. Eventually, we will also get an infinity cell for gravel as well as cobblestone, but again, we're not there yet, so we just want to keep all of our items in these drawers. All right, now let me go and hook all of these up real quick. This will take me a few minutes, and I'll be back in a moment. All right, I just connected all of this up. That took me about 20 minutes end to end. I had to create a whole nother stack of our storage interfaces, a whole bunch more of our Fluix cables, but eventually I got all wired up. Hey, while I was doing that, I also was listening to this really great interview with Jeff Vogel of Spiderweb Games. This is like one of the oldest indie game companies around, y'all. They make some amazing old school RPGs that you probably have never played. The Gene Forge series, Avernum, things like that. These are some of my favorite games of all time, y'all. If you like traditional old school RPG stuff, like Ultima Crawler stuff, go check out this interview real quick. Listen to this dude talk. Like, this is really a great interview. Anyway, just throwing that out there. I'll drop a link up here, but that's what I was doing while I was building all this out, just in case you all are curious as to what I get up to when I'm not talking to you. All right. So if I did all of that correct, this interface, now should have access to absolutely everything. So this should make it real easy for us to craft anything that we could possibly need here in the future. All right, with all that done, it is on to reactors. I had honestly been dreading this a little bit because inevitably it takes a lot of work to make these reactors. We are going to try and make the smallest one that we possibly can get away with here. Last time I did this, it melted down, so that was somewhat problematic. But today, we are going to at least try and get as far as we can in setting all of this up. Let's get started first of all with our graphite. Graphite bars are real easy for us in this pack. We need any source of our carbon here. In this case, I think I'm going to use charcoal or coal, whatever I have more of. And then we throw that in the arc furnace. So let's go ahead and grab up 2 stacks of whatever that ends up being. Let's see here. We have 89,000 coal, and we have 44,000 charcoal. All right, well, great. Let's go ahead and grab, I don't know, 4 stacks of coal, and we're going to throw this into our arc reactor. All right, I was making a bunch of Fluix crystal between episodes, so we can clear that out. Let's just throw our coal in here, and let's see how quickly this goes. All right, so this is making graphite for us. It's also eating through our graphite electrodes. While that's going, I'd set up a tank for obsidian here so that we could collect that and make up our rods. And it looks like this has got enough molten obsidian for us to take advantage of that to the lab. There we go. And now from over here, we should be able to use the molten obsidian to be able to make up those graphite electrodes. All right, so we're gonna need 3 of those. So let's make up 3 graphite electrodes real quick. There's that. And then we are gonna need a bucket. Do I have any buckets left? Yeah, we got some buckets. All right. Because we want to manually insert these into the researcher, we don't want to automate that. That could go sideways for us. So let's put 2 buckets in. There we go. All right. And now from that, we should be able to put our unbreakable blueprint and also a graphite electrode. And that will slowly, very slowly cook. 1200 ticks, that's going to take a while. All right, and our unbreakable graphite electrodes are now done. We will slap those into our arc furnace as soon as our existing run is done here, which should be, oh, already done. Perfect. Well, we can just replace these here. You don't have to have the unbreakable ones, but then you just don't ever have to worry about these breaking. And you can see these are already 25% done. All right, great. So that is all of our graphite. Head back to the lab here, and it does look like we are running out of storage space already. So that's gonna have to be something that we are gonna have to clear up in the near future, to the point where we literally can't drop any more items in here. All right, we're running out of time in this episode, but let's keep cranking through. We are going to make some steel casings up real quick here. I think what we'll do is we'll make up, I don't know, let's say 32 of these. We've got the steel for it, we've got the lead for it, and glass is also not a problem for us anymore. We're just going to start with that. From there, we can then make our reactor casing. So if we put this inside of a square of our graphite, we get reactor casing back out the other side. We're going to make a stack of that up. All right, so those two are done. Before we can make the rest of our reactor pieces, we need to make uranium dust. Now, this we have to make in an arc furnace with Elite Technium nuggets and crystals of any sort. I believe I'm gonna have some gold crystals left over at our sulfur processing facility that we saw previously. And of course, the other piece of that we already have here in the form of our Elite Technium that we saw earlier. So Elite Technium, yeah, we've got that. And as I expected, we are backed up on this because hydrogen chloride is still the hardest thing for us to produce. So let's go ahead and grab up some of the, oh, it looks like it already filled up. So I guess 32 is what we're getting. All right, no problem. Let's go across the street here to our arc furnace, and then we should be able to set this up here. Gold crystal, Elite Technium. Is that the right? Yeah, that's doing something. All right, so we're gonna let that crank through for a second here. There we go. There's our uranium dust coming in. All right. With that uranium dust, we can, of course, make up some blocks of uranium here. It looks like we can just throw that back into the arc furnace, but we can also use a regular smelter for it. No big deal there. But what we really probably want to do here is start making uranium ore so that we can make our dimensional uranium ore, so then we can mine this. Again, any chance that we've got to make something that is infinite source, this is the way to do it. So we need one piece of that. For that, we need 8 pieces of uranium ore. For 8 pieces of uranium ore, that means we need 12 uranium dust. 12 times 8 is 96 pieces of uranium dust here. So I'll work on that between episodes again so that we can get moving, but let's go ahead and get our uranium ingot, and then we're going to go ahead and get our reactor controller done here in a second. So there's a bunch of uranium dust, 32. That's a good starting point. That's almost how much we need, but we're going to need a little bit more still. Why am I walking like a peasant? Can't keep doing that. Let's teleport over to the lab. All right. And now that we're here, we can go over and grab up our smelting setup and put this in there. Let's see here. One of these is an energized smelter. This one is. We really, I think, only need 2 pieces right now. Let me just double check that recipe. Yeah, we only need 2 pieces of that. So let's do that real fast. There is our uranium. We get our quest completed for that. And then we will come over here and we will use that to make our reactor controller real fast. Oh, and it looks like we're missing a couple of things here. We are missing a redstone comparator, which is easy enough. We just have to make 3 of these silly little redstone torches. We'll make up the comparator with that. We haven't used much redstone in this pack so far. And then we need to make up an Elite Technium ingot. That's gonna be easy for us. Or excuse me, not an ingot, what am I saying? Machine frame. Oh, you know what? Before we do that, I am relatively sure that we have one. Yeah, because we made that at the end of the last episode and then we didn't use it for anything. So this is gonna be what we are using it for. There is our reactor controller. Perfect. All right. So we still have a lot of things that we need to make here before we can call this done. We need to make our reactor control rods, our reactor fuel rods, and then we can actually start building an actual reactor. But that is going to have to wait for the next episode because we all know that building reactors is hard and takes a really long time. It's not an easy task, and inevitably I am going to have a nuclear meltdown over this, one way or the other. So we're going to do that next episode. Hey, if you made it this far into the episode, you are one of the 15% of people who watch my videos and make it this far. So if you haven't already, why don't you consider leaving me a like on this video and subscribing to the channel if you haven't already, like our other new friends who have joined us recently. Also, of course, we are getting really close to that 2,000 subscriber mark, and I'm really excited to hit that goal. We hit 1,000 last year at this time, so I would love to hit 2,000 by the end of the month. So if you want to help me get to that goal, I really appreciate it. But either way, thanks again for watching this episode of Enterprise Architecture, and hopefully we'll see you back here next time. Bye, friends.